Support for this podcast comes from Fordham University's Gabelli School of Business. For over 100 years, the Gabelli School of Business at Fordham University has produced the values-driven leaders that modern business demands. The Gabelli School of Business offers full and part-time MBAs for those who learn as boldly as they live. From marketing and finance to analytics and accounting, you'll practice business with purpose, taught by world-class professors in the heart of New York City or online from wherever you call home. Get started today at fordham.edu/MBA.
Support for this podcast comes from today's military. You have a calling. We have an answer.
Finding your purpose can mean following a different path, and that can be intimidating, but also rewarding. Consider the unexpected by looking at today's military. You have a calling. We have an answer. Learn more at todaysmilitary.com.
The key to sustainable leadership lies in the ability to thrive in uncertainty, ambiguity, and change. Grand Heron International brings you the Coaching Assistance Program, giving your employees on-demand coaching to manage through a challenging situation and arrive at a solution. Visit grandheroninternational.ca/podcast to learn more.
This podcast is part of the C-Suite Radio Network, turning the volume up on business.
Welcome to the Keep Leading Podcast, a podcast dedicated to promoting leadership development and sharing leadership insights. Here's your host, the Leadership Accelerator, Eddie Turner.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Keep Leading Podcast, the podcast dedicated to leadership development and insights. I'm your host, Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator. I work with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact through the power of executive and leadership coaching, facilitation, and professional speaking. When is the last time someone told you, "You made my day"? When is the last time you made someone else's day? My guest today says he has discovered that making someone's day makes a huge difference both to the person being helped and the person doing the helping. His soon-to-be published book helps both introverts and extroverts learn what they need to do to make someone's day in person, online, at work, and at home. And this podcast, my guest, Howard Prager, will explain why it's important for us as leaders to make someone's day. Let me tell you a little bit about Howard Prager. Howard Prager is an executive coach, author, and a consultant who helps organizations create and strengthen their leaders through programs designed to develop, grow, and retain the strength of their bench. And he's also one of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 coaches. Howard has won 8 professional awards for outstanding learning programs. I'm excited to welcome my fellow Northwestern Wildcat, Howard Prager, to the Keep Leading Podcast. Welcome, Howard.
Thank you, Eddie. I feel like I should have the marching band playing Go You Northwestern as you did that beautiful introduction.
So thank you. Go Cats, right?
Right.
So, Howard, you and I have known each other for years, initially through the Talent Development Circle, our ATD world, and then now as colleagues in the MG 100.
Yes. And not just colleagues almost puts it in a smaller light than it is, both before and now, is we've been people who have been leaders in our field, in our organizations, and continue to give back, grow, and develop others.
Yes, it has truly been a joy to be able to be connected with you all these years and now to get to know you better as we're doing work inside of the MG100 family.
Yes.
So now I have to ask you,
okay,
what does it mean to make someone's day? Because going through my mind is that famous Clint Eastwood scene. I won't try to do the dirty, hairy voice, but he also says, go ahead and make my day.
Right. He said, make my day. So just to not confuse, this is to make someone's day, not make my
someone
day.
else's day. Okay.
Right.
Well, then we start there.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. So make someone's day is all about the large and small ways you can inspire others, and it's at a time that they need it most. It helps them and you really be your best by being able to say, do, or have the right things that they need so that they can feel successful, empowered, able to move on. Let me start with a couple stories, if you don't mind, Eddie. And I've got several stories about this to help people learn the concept of make someone's day.
Sure.
It started for me when I was commuting downtown Chicago, and I was at the train station early one morning waiting for the 6:30 a.m. commuter train. And someone came up to me with a petition, and they said, would you mind signing my petition? And I said, what is this for? And she said, we want to get our candidate on the ballot, which you need to do in Illinois is they need to have a certain number of people who live in the area sign a petition. So I asked her who it was. I said, great. And I went ahead and signed and gave it back to her without thinking much about it. She took it and she looked up at me and she said, oh my gosh, you made my day.
How about that?
And from that time, the whole train ride downtown, I thought about that. I thought about, what is it that I did? All I did was sign a petition. Now, as I thought back about it, I thought maybe I was the first one. Maybe she asked others. Maybe it's the first time she was doing this. I'm not sure. But to think that was so powerful in action that it made her day. And there's what I call the boomerang effect, because when you make someone else's day, it also makes your day, because you get some endorphin and a high from that as well. So make someone's day, I realize, is really a powerful technique. It's not just a pay it forward or do a good deed or do a good turn. It's doing something at the right time when people need it. And that's why it's so powerful for leaders to be able to do in their organizations.
So you're saying it doesn't have to be something terribly huge or significant.
It's huge and significant for the person at that time. So yes, it can be a very small action. It could be saying thank you. It could be a smile. It could be giving some attention. Let me give you a quick story about Doug Conant, the former CEO of Campbell's Soup. Okay. And he was credited with turning around that company. And he said the way he did it was he wrote 200 to 250 notes every week, handwritten notes to leaders and managers throughout Campbell's, praising them for some action that they did. And he points out in his book, Touch Points, that's the smallest of actions that make the biggest difference in motivating leaders. And that's what makes someone's day is all about. And so here's an action, here's a whole book and concept by Doug that really talks about what he did to make someone's day in his company.
Thank you for sharing that. When we think about the leadership implications of this concept, what makes this a leadership competency?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a leadership competency because as leaders, your employees count on you, your customers count on you, your vendors count on you, and of course your organization does too. And you want and need to inspire them, to strengthen them, and to support them. You want to retain your best talent, especially during these crazy COVID-19 times, and you want to retain your customers. And you can help do that by making someone's day. And it's, as I said, it's amazingly simple. It doesn't have to cost much. It just needs to happen when they need it and in a way that helps the most.
And so we see from the example of the leader, Campbell's Soup, that you mentioned, the CEO, that this certainly is something that leaders want to add to their arsenal of skills and competencies. And this one doesn't cost anything.
Right. It doesn't have to. So as I say, it can happen in small and big ways. So larger ways that do cost something is people are motivated in different ways, as I've said. And so some people like learning or education is something that motivates them. It's a way for them to grow, and it's a way for them to be able to develop.
Yes, absolutely. I was sorry. I was making the point that you made about the with the Campbell Soup, how he wrote he hand wrote a thank you note. So in that sense, it didn't cost anything. But yes, in other cases, it may be that it will cost.
Right.
It doesn't always have to cost.
Exactly, and that's the thing, Eddie. It's a great comment. Is that there's so many actions you can take as a leader to inspire and help your team and to help other leaders within the organization that doesn't have to cost anything. It just takes some attention. Other times you do want to invest something and know that you're going to get back as well.
And especially during this time, it's even more important, as you said, during this crisis that we're going through, because many organizations are watching their bottom line, but doing these small acts can go a long way to making someone's day and supporting the organization during this difficult time.
So true. So well said. And you're right. We're going to be needing to come out of this stronger, more flexible, and more focused on what needs to be done to stay as a growing concern. And that's what we all want to do, right? We want our organizations and we want us to succeed. And to do that, we have to have our people succeed. So we need to find ways to be able to ensure we've got the right people and motivate them and inspire them in the right way so that'll happen.
So you've given us a couple of examples. Are there other examples you can provide for those who are listening to us wondering, well, I'd like to get started, but those two examples you said so far may not be work for my personality?
Sure. Let me give you some examples of people who I've spoken to, and let me share how simple it can be to make someone's day. And part of that is looking at, and I talk to people about what was their best boss and best boss experience. And I hope your listeners, as I say that, are thinking back to what their best boss experience is or has been, and how they've been able to become a best boss as well. Unfortunately, if you try Googling it, you get 10 times as many examples of worst bosses as you do best bosses. So something that should be so simple and easy, people don't necessarily do. And so it's important to be able to make sure that we put the effort and energy in. So here's some great examples. I love this just because of the way it ended. My best boss had this magic where he could just make you feel like you could do absolutely anything. He instilled confidence like no one I've ever known. There's a lot of lip service every day to team players, but at the risk of sounding like a cliche, he really had a way of making you feel like you were part of a team. You knew what you did mattered, and it mattered to the company and it mattered to him. I don't have any idea how he did it. He didn't give effusive compliments. He didn't give empty praise. There were no weekly luncheons or gift cards. He just said, "Thank you. I couldn't have done it without you." And you knew he meant it. There was never a question that he had your back. He engendered a loyalty that's so rare. I haven't worked for him in years, but if he needed a kidney, I'd see if I was a match.
Oh, wow. Talk about making an impression.
Yeah. And as I say, unfortunately, all too rarely, we don't have a lot of best bosses in our career. But when they come out, they stand out. And they stand out not for the big, grandiose things they do, but for the little things they do, for the way that they're open and honest, that they communicate fairly and clearly, that they're positive and enthusiastic, and they ask how they can help you. They introduce you to their bosses and promote your work at every opportunity. They take responsibility and don't shift blame. They do all they can to make your day, to make your job, and to make your career.
Okay. Well, I'm talking to Howard Prager, and we're talking about how leaders can make someone's day. And we'll have more with Howard right after this.
Support for this podcast comes from PayPal. Small business owners, turn your smartphone into a cash register. PayPal QR codes are the safe and easy way to get paid in store, and they deliver the same security and trust PayPal is known for online, in person. Even if you're a cash-only business, with PayPal QR codes, you can accept credit or debit with everyday low fees. There's no additional hardware or software needed. Generate your unique QR code from the PayPal app and display it on your device, or print it to display in store. Customers scan your code with their PayPal app. You only need your smartphone. Learn more at paypal.com/us/getQRcode.
Support for this podcast comes from CDW and Lenovo. At CDW, we get that a cyborg assistant won't make your employees more productive from home.
Please, call me Brian. I can vacuum your dog.
That's great. But at CDW, we can design a productivity solution with Lenovo devices that offer fast, reliable connectivity to help your people manage their workloads the right way.
Can I have a human hug?
No. For technology that moves you forward, trust Lenovo and IT orchestration by CDW. People who get it. Learn more at cdw.com/Lenovo Client.
This podcast is sponsored by Eddie Turner, LLC. Organizations who need to accelerate the development of their leaders call Eddie Turner the Leadership Accelerator. Eddie works with leaders to accelerate performance and drive impact. Call Eddie Turner to help your leaders one-on-one as their coach, or to inspire them as a group through the power of facilitation or a keynote address. Visit EddieTurnerLLC.com to learn more.
This is Whitney Johnson, host of the Disrupt Yourself podcast, and you're listening to the Keep Leading podcast with Eddie Turner.
We're back. I'm talking to Howard Prager, an executive coach and one of Marshall Goldsmith's 100 coaches. And we're talking about how leaders can make someone's day. Howard, before the break, you were telling us how we can make someone's day as a leader at work. What about at home? Is it important to make someone's day there as well?
Absolutely, Eddie. It's so important to make someone's day with our families. And, we live with them. We love them. They're with us throughout the journey, right? And so why not try to make their day too, to make their day and help them see themselves and for you to see them in a new light.
And what makes this important besides the fact that we're together with them all the time? Is there anything along the lines of congruence that makes this something we should consider?
We grow up with whether it's siblings or friends or family, and they get this idea of who we are. And I think what you want to do is you want to both keep that congruent, as you say, and you also want to make sure that they see how you're developing and how you're growing. And believe me, they've all got a stake in you, Eddie. Everybody wants you to succeed. No one doesn't want you to succeed. I think of the things I learned from my mom and dad. As a matter of fact, I've got to tell you, a friend of mine who you may know, Ed Bedoff, was Chief Learning Officer at Bechtel Dickinson. And he and his wife put a book out called Leadership Lessons from Our Mothers.
Wow.
Leadership Lessons for Times. And it was all about stories of our mothers and what they did to impact us in our lives. And it was just beautiful. And he asked me he had gotten to know my mom, and he asked me if I wanted to contribute to it. And I loved being able to do that and to reflect and think about what are the things I learned from her. And there's so much when we really stop and think about it.
I like that title. I think that is definitely a book worth reading. And that's a title I'd love to interview on the show.
All right.
Now, is there a difference between whether someone is an introvert or an extrovert in terms of how they apply this concept?
Yeah, excellent question. And certainly there is, right? For extroversion, there's just so many different ways that we can go ahead and do it. It could be a smile, a word, a greeting, a comment, some help. But for introverts, that's much harder. Matter of fact, I just read how introverts are thriving so much with this work from home and not having to see people in the office all the time. That they're being much more productive and happy. But they can make someone's day too. And it's as simple, and this is going to sound really, really stupid, Eddie, because we're also technologically smart in some ways. But the like button was created just for that, to provide a statement of approval. The same type of like button that we see on Facebook and social media. Ted Koppel interviewed the creator of this like button, and he said, I was tasked with finding out how can we make it really easy for people to share little bits of positivity and affirmation in the world. Isn't that beautiful?
It really is.
And then just think about go beyond that. When you comment on something, when you more than like it, and you make a comment on it, how good that feels to you and how much that is important to you. You know, when people have birthdays these days and the birthday is known on social media, they get deluged with comments and likes. And when I say deluged, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 200, whatever it is, it's a lot of positivity coming at you. And as managers, leaders, we can do that with our people who are introverts and prefer not having that public action. We need to be able to do that with them as well. I'll give you an example. And it's about my son, Jacob. He was working for a large accounting firm as an industrial engineer. And he got a note from the partner in charge at this accounting firm. He had been working several days without sleep on a new software program that was going live for a large client. And the partner called out Jacob's work in a thank you and copied the whole executive suite.
How about that?
Can you imagine how motivated Jacob felt after seeing something like that?
Mm-hmm.
What type of effort do you think he's going to put in? Do you think he'll do that again? Of course he will. So it really doesn't take much, but that's a nice way. Goes back to the Doug Conant, right? With the idea of put it in writing.
Yes.
But yeah, that's a great example of how you can motivate and make someone's day for an introvert.
It definitely goes back to that example of that CEO. And here again, you're sharing an example that's close to home, and certainly an example of another senior executive taking the same type of an action of the power of a couple of simple words.
Yes, absolutely.
So what else are we missing around this topic, Howard?
Eddie, it's interesting. At first, I didn't think, how could I write a book about this? And it just started to flow. And the more I looked into it, the more I wrote, the more I researched, the more I learned. So, for example, I've been talking about this neurological effect, and that's been studied quite a bit. And especially when you talk about introverts, my gosh, Facebook has a team of scientists looking at the impact and how that helps people and how we feel uplifted by it. Neurologists describe it as an endorphin rush that you get from doing it. Your brain feels good, you experience an emotional uplift, and it changes the course in a day that provides a powerful positive impact on you. And as I said, you get the person who's doing it gets the boomerang effect, because when you realize and say, gee, you made my day, they get that back as well. So that's one of the pieces that I think is just really powerful about this whole process. The other things are just ways that we can use it and where it can be. I talked a little bit about the past and celebrations. Celebrations are great ways to make someone's day. And we've all got different traditions at work. in our workplaces. When I worked in executive education, we did a crazy thing. Whenever we got a new client and program, we got this big, ugly plastic frog that croaked when you turned the button on. And we would croak it out loud for everyone to hear whenever that happened. And we used the frog because our name was originally Leap. And so Leap, we decided, well, frog must be our mascot sort of thing. And when that awful croaking sound happened, people would gather around from all over to learn about the latest client and program we would be offering. And it sounds really nuts, but when you've worked hard to bring in a new program and have a chance to share it with others, it really makes your day for you to be able to croak that frog.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, Howard. What is the key message you want to leave our listeners with today?
I think the key message really is, first of all, to be purposeful, to choose to make someone's day, and to do so by observing the world around you, both online and in person, to determine what may be needed from what you observe, and to be spontaneous in really being able to just go and do it. And reflect and see how it happens. People don't always say, "You made my day," but it's amazing how many times they do. And so what I do like to do is just encourage all of the listeners to realize that they can be making someone's day at work as leaders, at home as parents, and with their friends in the community. And as they do that, it's going to have a huge impact on others that they're doing it for.
Is there a piece of advice that you live by or a quote that you use that helps you to keep leading?
My favorite saying is that anything is possible. And I really, truly believe that. The things that I've been able to experience and have happen in life are just things that if I planned for them, they wouldn't have happened early on. And we all have careers and lives that aren't I should say most of us, I don't say everybody, but most of us, it's not a straight line to the top, right? We have our ups and downs and everything else. But to realize and to always remember, especially when you're at the low point, that anything is possible. I think that's something that keeps me inspired and motivated.
Wonderful. And where can my listeners learn more about you, Howard?
Oh, thanks for asking, Eddie. My organization is called Advance, ADVANCE Learning Group, Advanced Learning Group. And they can find that on the web, and they can look me up on LinkedIn under my name, Howard Prager. And they'll be able to find articles and other pieces that I've developed and shared.
Wonderful. Well, we will put all of that in the show notes, make it easy for folks to find you and connect with you and follow you. Thank you, Howard. And thank you for listening. That concludes this episode of the Keep Leading podcast. I'm Eddie Turner, the Leadership Accelerator, reminding you that leadership is not about our title or our position. Leadership is an activity. Leadership is action. It's not the case of once a leader, always a leader. It's not a garment we put on and take off. We must be a leader at our core and allow it to emanate in all we do. So whatever you're doing, always keep leading.
Thank you for listening to your host, Eddie Turner, on the Keep Leading podcast. Please remember to subscribe to the Keep Leading podcast on iTunes or wherever you listen. For more information about Eddie Turner's work, please visit eddieturnerllc.com.
Thank you for listening to C-Suite Radio, turning the volume up on business.
Hey, C-Suite Radio listeners, Jeffrey Hazlett here, Chairman and CEO of the C-Suite Network. Has your business been seriously affected by COVID-19? Are you having trouble getting a loan to meet payroll? Is government red tape causing your business to shut down? Well, we're here to help. C-Suite Loans is a business program designed to provide companies just like yours with immediate access to capital that will keep your business not only afloat, but driving and thriving. C-Suite Loans works in conjunction with vetted funding to provide you with the best options based on your financial needs. We understand the challenges and we have a solution. Visit csuiteloans.com today to learn more. Once again, that's C-Suite, S-U-I-T-E, loans.com.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.